Hello and welcome to Property-Pxrn Stars, the premium property podcast brought to you by your hosts David Lindley.
And I'm Matt Giggs.
And today, our star, is none other than John-Paul Rafferty from Rafferty Pickard. And what makes John-Paul so interesting for us today is, so our podcast is designed for estate agents who are either in or looking to operate in the premium property market. And be that from agents or people from around the industry who are at the end of their journey, midway through their journey. And we were having a conversation the other day, which I think is really interesting, is you're quite early into your journey.
Yes, correct.
So, welcome. Thank you for coming on today.
No problem. Thank you.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I should state that this is my first podcast, so effectively you will be relieving me of my podcast virginity.
I popped your cherry, but that's a good start.
As a porn star channel.
Exactly, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Hell of a way to go.
A bit risky. Anyway, we'll move on.
Yeah.
So, as you were making the decision of what business you were going to go into, at some point you would have made the decision that, okay, the premium market is for me, that's the one that I want to target. But what made you make that decision?
So, started at grassroots level, age 18. Had a very long journey in property now. It's some 22 years. It's quite scary when I say it out loud, but time catches up with us all, doesn't it? So, and over that time, there's been a number of occasions when I've come up against the big, well-established national brands and gone up against them with property sales. And quite often, we've come out on top in those situations. And that started to sow the seed for me that actually they're not invincible and untouchable, and it's possibly a market that is there to work in, even though my background is local village,
Resi
county estate agency. Yeah, so just nice straightforward stuff. And it's more recently that I think I've seen that the number of property reality TV shows and the types of people that are on there, I won't name any names or particular shows, but you're there watching them thinking, well, if they can have success, then surely somebody with my experience, if I'm happy to put myself out of my comfort zone a little bit and put your face on camera and just sort of raise your game in terms of education and the package that you're building, that I can compete in that marketplace. So that was how it all started with me. Paul, who is my co-founder and business partner, he's got a background in IT. So he was director of an IT company that looked after our IT systems in our village estate agency. And we just happened to be talking one day, and effectively he said, look, I've been doing this for years now. I really fancy a change. I'm at that stage in life where if not, if I don't do it now, I'm probably never going to do it. I effectively pitched him my idea. I said, look, I think some of the big boys in this game are resting on their laurels a bit. You often see multi-million-pound properties that don't have a video tour. Yeah. Some of them don't even have a floor plan in some situations. You think, that they really aren't doing all the basics exceptionally well in every case. You've got complementary skills in terms of your IT background to my estate agency history. Let's pool resources and look at a sort of tech-focused, highly personal service, new boutique estate agency. So that's how it all started. That was just over 3 years ago now. And since then we've learned a lot. We put ourselves on at the time you had to be professionally qualified to fly a drone. So we put ourselves on a 3-day commercial drone course and spent hours and hours on YouTube and signing up to courses on how to do video, mainly from sort of American companies because they tended to lead the way at the time. And yeah, the rest is history really. So that's how the journey began. It was really just a case of seeing a flawed offering from some agents and thinking there's a gap there, we can exploit it.
And when was that? When did the business start? To give some context.
So January 21 we launched.
Yeah.
It was probably a year prior to that we started having those conversations.
Sure.
And that was obviously through the COVID lockdown period.
So wasn't our lockdown?
Well, it was very lockdown centric in terms of when we launched. So we kept delaying because there was a new wave or there was a new sort of set of regulations. So, and then we just decided, you know what, if we don't do it now, we're never going to do it. I was really busy with my other estate agency through that lockdown period because obviously we had the the race for space and the post-pandemic boom. So that was drawing a lot of my time and attention. But actually, yeah, we needed to launch the new company. So
awesome.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. It's an exciting journey. So let's kind of pick some of that apart. So I guess the first question is, how's it going? Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I mean, it's been a difficult year, let's be honest. So we are in that post-pandemic hangover now where interest rates are rising and the market is more challenging. So probably year 2 will end up having been better than year 3 for us from a business point of view. But I think in terms of direction of travel and where we're going in terms of social media presence, the sort of video production that we're doing, and just getting brand awareness out there, I think that's really starting to gain some momentum now. So, but that's probably taken the best part of 3 years. I mean, we're self-funded. We haven't launched on a huge budget. It's all our own money that we've put into this. So we're doing it organically and within our own means. So I'm sure had we had a financial backer, we probably could have accelerated that somewhat. But we are where we are. So yeah.
So how did it launch? So you have the idea, you and your business partner, we want to go after this market. How do you get your first few listings? And then I guess from there, you can employ all the skills you've learned with your drone videography and so on, but you have to have the stock to market yourself. So how did you get those first few listings?
So the first few probably came borrowed, let's say, from my existing estate agency. So we had a few higher end properties that we were able to shift across and use those to showcase what we could do. We had a great bit of luck actually with our first and still most expensive sale. And we had a branding company that were looking after our sort of branding and designing all our logos and bits and bobs. And we had a conversation with them whereby they were, we were saying to them, we need a property to showcase our work, a really standout property, just in conversation really. And he said, let me get on the phone, I'll ring somebody. I know somebody who's got a property that might suit you. And he's a really nice guy. And effectively, he got on the phone, got us a meeting with the owner of a property called The Salutation, which was celebrity owned, Gogglebox owners. And we volunteered to showcase their property for free. So we just said, look, we'll produce one of our high-end videos. You can use that to market wherever you want, because they were looking at the Asian market and that's where they saw the sale heading. And it was when we got talking with their sort of sub-agent on the ground and talking about the concept of the business and our backgrounds and things. And he said, look, why don't we, once we've exhausted this Asian thing, we'll give you a chance, because we've tried, again, the big established names. We've not had any joy. So we'll give you guys a run. And so for a kind of a cost covering fee, let's say, it wasn't your usual high percentage fee, but we just wanted to cover our costs. But we sold that property. It was a grade 1 listed Edwin Lutyens mansion, needed £500,000 worth of work doing to it. It was catching water in buckets from roof leaks and all sorts. So fantastic property, but a real challenge for us. Within a reasonable period of time, probably about 6 months, we found a buyer. That buyer exchanged shortly afterwards, and that was 3.9 million, that property. So suddenly, having only sold around 1 million price point properties, we had something to showcase to really kind of get people's attention. Where they were celebrity owners, they used the leverage of press, so that went into national press. And I think that just kind of got us recognised in our area, really.
Puts you on the map.
Yeah, basically. So some, you might say it's luck, but obviously it was just.
Oh, I don't believe it's luck.
Yeah.
Equally, do you believe that was quite a big part of launching?
Definitely, because on the back of that, we had the seller saying, "Look, fantastic! I've dealt with all the big boys. Wouldn't deal with them again because the experience has been really good with you two." The buyer also said, weirdly, that he wouldn't have bought the property had it not been for me. I've never had anyone say that before, and he was a very tough guy in sort of international security. I thought, I've upset him here, but he said, "But I'm really glad that I did, because my family are really happy here, and I've dealt with a lot of other agents, and I wouldn't have come on this journey this far without you." So
Take it there were some challenges then along the way.
it was, well, I was up on the roof at one point with a surveyor who was an architect on a whole day-long survey, and we were, really sort of exploring the bones of this property. It had suffered from coastal flooding before. That's no secret because it's there's a lot of flooding or had been flooding in that area. So it was about as challenging a property as I've ever sold. And then they gave us their property to sell, which we then broke a record for in the local area. So that kind of snowballed, and I think that got us our recognition that we can actually do what we say we think we can do. So yeah.
So you've got two business, maybe you've got more businesses, but the ones that we're talking about here, there's two businesses. There's a core brand residential estate agency business, and then there's Rafferty Pickard that is the premium business. Why didn't you just use the core brand established business there to break into the premium market?
I think partly it's not a premium. The branding isn't set up for premium. So the name, the corporate image, it's warm and friendly and small village local estate agent. So I don't necessarily think the two go hand in hand. I think time management wise, when I'm in sort of deep into the Bluebell Estates local village estate agent, it's very difficult to then put a different hat on and then suddenly focus on how we can drive the brand forward, how we can look at the sort of PR side of things, getting the properties exposed to the right places. So because it's that whole working in the business, on the business, when I'm in Bluebell Estates, been there for 15 years, and it's just so easy to just get absorbed into the day-to-day, normal low-level stuff that just distracts you from doing what you want to do in terms of the bigger picture stuff.
So are you out of that business from a day-to-day perspective, still overseeing?
Day-to-day. So I have a monthly meeting with Wendy, who manages that office, and I still do a lot of the kind of back office stuff that I can do from home. I still take on properties if they're former clients of mine, but it's probably a 20% time spent on that one, 80% on the
first one or two steps of handing over as such, or
effectively,
delegation or whatever. But that's interesting, isn't it?
So where do your listings come from? How do you go and win stock? Where does that lead originate from? How does that work?
So a multitude of different places. Of late, because our social game has improved, we've had people actually coming to us. So even on TikTok and LinkedIn, which I'm quite shocked about. So people have been seeing what we've been doing. I think just that snowball effect of seeing the sort of properties that we're doing, the way that we're presenting them, and trying to be that attraction agent that people are then drawn to. Fairly recently, for the first time as well, I've actually approached people directly. So gone and done the dreaded door knock.
How's that gone?
I was pleasantly surprised, actually.
Yeah.
I had people thanking me for my time and things. And, I assumed that it would be a very hostile approach. But I think where we're in a difficult market and people are struggling to sell, I mean, I did a door knock recently, and none of the people that were on the market had any viewings in the whole time they've been on the market. So it was a really challenging marketplace for them. So suddenly a slightly new face that can come along and say, well, look, I've had results in this area, this is how we do it. It was quite refreshing to hear. I think it's given them hope that...
Well, I'm talking to agents about going into this market at the minute. There's probably no better market to tap on the door and introduce something fresh and new. And I think, like you say, it's because the people are receptive at the minute, because, like you say, the activity's pretty much disappeared in that respect.
So what is your approach to door knocking? And let's dive into that one for an example.
A bag of peas, is it?
Very simple. So I'm not a natural hard seller. I hate being hard sold to. So I just literally have a brochure and a card, and I just knock on the door and say, hi, I'm John from Rafferty Pickard. I'm an estate agent. I just wanted to give you this in person. And then I kind of gauge the response. And if it's a little bit hostile, then I'll say, just bear us in mind, and then disappear down the drive. If they're quite warm and fuzzy and I think there's a conversation to be had, I'll say, how are you getting on? And then that just opens up a conversation where then they'll say whatever they're going to say. And often it's terrible out there, isn't it? And I'll say, yeah, it's a very challenging market, but there are things that we can be doing that can actually cause better results. So, and then there is prick up at that point. So yeah, it's something I've never done before in my whole 22 years, but it is working for me. So yeah.
I was talking to someone a little while ago about the approach to that particular, that almost like one of the most challenging things for a new agent to do is to get off their backside, get into their car and go back to the boards that they go past and get out and then go up to drive and then, start getting all flustered. And actually, one of the things I would say is, if you're an agent watching this, go and talk to the buyers that you know are looking at the minute and ask their permission for you to say, I've got a buyer that's asked me to come and look for properties in this area. So you've actually got a purpose behind it as well. So that's just one thing just to add to that. And that's worked for 2 agents that I've coached, rather than they've just knocked on the door. It's been I've got a buyer. But what I like is your guts. And I've seen you on LinkedIn. You said you're surprised by the results you've had on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's a bit of an untapped market for the premium market and the premium agents, because will you tell me why you've gone on LinkedIn and you do your updates on there and you're very much on it?
Yeah,
I would say.
It's actually a friend of mine, close friend, who has recently gone into full-time social media management. And for years, our group of friends were looking at him going, what are you doing? You're always on these podcasts and you're always doing these crazy posts. But he is obviously quite obsessed with how you can drive a business forward, mainly using LinkedIn. And I had a conversation with him, and he just said, it's if you're on there and you're posting regularly and you're commenting and you're engaging and you're expanding your network, soon results will drop in. So it was actually his inspiration, although it went from kind of mockery among friends, which is always the way, isn't it? As soon as you put yourself out there in the public domain, everybody wants to sort of bring you down a bit. But yeah, and so far so good. I mean, it's I feel like we're fairly in our infancy in terms of growing all those social media platforms, but we're starting to put a bit of spend now behind things like YouTube, even TikTok, and we're just trying to build those audiences so that we, again, can hopefully become that attraction agent that people then recognise.
And what platform, so if you're on YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, say, which of those has given you, or maybe it's hard to measure, but which one do you feel has given you the best cut through or leads back again, or best resonance with your marketplace?
So far, LinkedIn, I would say, followed by TikTok, and then
Wow.
and then I've had people private messaging me. I had somebody message me the other day. I got a property in East London. Actually, I should have popped in while I'm up here, and they just said, I wish you could sell my home because I'm really struggling. I thought, it's incredible that you're perceived in that way just from posting a few videos.
That's an amazing answer to that question. LinkedIn and TikTok.
Yeah,
that is something else, isn't it? So what are you doing on TikTok then?
Essentially, very similar to LinkedIn.
Even that in itself is just unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's I try. It's hard because I try and adapt it slightly for the different platforms. So I try and keep TikTok a bit more real and a bit more of the younger side of me. Whereas LinkedIn, you sort of, I tend to post the more professional videos on there. So it's less of my individual personality there. Whereas TikTok, I think, because it tends to be a younger audience, I tend to just try and sort of lean on that a bit more. So, I mean, in one video recently, I was spinning a basketball in my hand before getting it in the net, and I wouldn't probably put that on. That was 20, I think. But I wouldn't have put that on, let's say, LinkedIn or YouTube. But actually, I thought for TikTok, it's appropriate for that platform, really. So, yeah.
And just because we talk strategically and we talk tactically, but tactically on LinkedIn, are you going through and connecting with people in your area? You are actively looking for people. Just talk to us about that for a moment. That's really interesting.
So, a lot of people are other people in the industry. So not only because I want to connect with them to follow them and gain sort of insight into their world, but also we've got longer term plans to maybe have a network of agents underneath us. So we're sort of building that from that point of view. Buying agents, private family office representatives, architects, accountants, just anyone that's in that world that might be in that in contact with people that are in property or that have a decent property to sell, really. So, but yeah, essentially it's just keep connecting and keep growing. It's quite a laborious task because there's obviously a limit to how many you can do, but just one of those things you fill the gaps in the day with. Really.
Do you have a set time that you do it, or set times for your posts or anything like that?
Not at all. No,
just purely organic, or whenever you've got the moment,
effectively,
you'll dive into it. But I think the premium market is probably more on LinkedIn, than possibly on like the other.
When you think about the buyers and sellers of those homes, they're more likely to be on LinkedIn, I would say, than other platforms.
But working your local network on there is interesting. There's something that I know that we should be doing, or more agents should be doing, because fundamentally you can reach that local network on LinkedIn. I think people tend to still associate it with recruitment, that kind of stuff, but actually far from it.
TikTok, I've found the organic growth on there is far in excess of any other platform. So even like YouTube Shorts or Facebook Reels, they're okay, but actually, I posted a video on TikTok and it was straight up to 10,000 views in no time with no spend behind it. And so the long-term plan, I think, would be you grow your audience on TikTok, then you try and, if you've established yourself and you get a bit of a brand recognition, then you can maybe move them across to other platforms like your sort of YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. So
how are you managing that? Because it's a lot of work, isn't it? From both a content creation point of view, managing the files, splitting up long form into short form, getting the aspect ratios right, all your captioning, all that sort of stuff, and then the posting to the various ones. And like, I sometimes think, oh yeah, I'm doing some good stuff. Then I realize, no, I've not posted it. I've done it on YouTube, but not done it on YouTube Shorts. I'm like, or Reels or whatever it is. I can never remember. How do you manage that? Because it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. I mean, at the minute, the workload is heavy. My wife will advocate for that.
There you go. You just let the cat out of the bag.
So, I mean, I'm probably 6 days a week working into evenings. I still spend the quality time with the family, but then I'll generally laptop comes open or phone comes on, and then it's just keep going really. So I think from our point of view, because we don't have huge resources behind us, we're having to put the time in now, and then obviously you can then start to backfill the team, hopefully with maybe a digital and social media manager. But Paul, again, coming from the IT background, he's great with captioning, all the Final Cut Pro editing and stuff. So that's his bag.
Right.
So again, that's why there's a good synergy between the two of us, really.
You can create, he can edit, and then you post.
To a degree. Although he creates as well, begrudgingly. He's now overtaken me on TikTok for a number of followers. So, and he was a man that said, I hate social media, I'm never going on it. And I think he's addicted to it now. He's on it all the time, and he's embraced it. So.
It's really interesting, isn't it? How there is an inbuilt, I don't know what you want to call it, apprehension of being on camera. And then you sort of go through a wave, don't you? That you go on there and come back to something that you just said. Actually, you do your first ones, and then it's a double whammy because you put yourself out there, and then there's almost like natural ridicule that comes from it from your mates, and who does this guy think he is, etc., etc. But then you slowly build up over time the amount of impressions, the views, the resonance it gets. It comes up in conversation. Even people that have never liked, commented, posted, whatever, they still see it. And it's amazing how that goes on. And then you start to get a bit of a bug for it almost. You enjoy doing it. And as long as you know you've got the idea for the content, you start to go, oh, I want to do something. And it's no longer I have to do it, but I want to do it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people's apprehension comes from the fact that there's a lot of negativity out there as well. So you have to have fairly broad shoulders. Even Paul said to me recently, he said, look, we were talking about the really big posts and how much reach you can get with them. And he said, yeah, but look at these comments. They're all negative. Everyone's slating this person. I said, well, if you look at it, it's had 1 million views and there's only 100 or 200 negative comments. What about the other 990 odd thousand that have viewed it and gone, okay, well, that's interesting, or there's value there, or I'll recognise them in the future at some point. So,
and there's a whole mindset about the people that comment negatively as well, as you engage with them and get them to comment more, because even if they're negative, exactly, they do you a favour in commenting negatively because it rides the algorithm, doesn't it?
Thank you, keep going. Thank you.
Tell me all the other things you hate. Carry on. Get your feel. Okay. So changing the subject then, because I said I wanted to talk about this, was your geographical spread. So as a business and office, I suppose, where are you based?
So we have a virtual office in Sevenoaks.
Yeah.
We've built, just before we launched the business, we built a garden office. So 2 of us work from there. That's our sort of base of operations. But obviously if we need to meet somebody, we can go to the Sevenoaks office and meet there if needed. But generally we go to people's houses and have meetings there. And then a lot of the time we're working out on the road. So we've got a phone system that comes straight through to the mobile. We've got MacBooks that you can just jump on your mobile data and work from anywhere really. So geographical reach is the far reaches of the Kent coast up to southeast London at the moment, into Surrey. We've just listed one now. So it's a very large area. So it's a case of diary management is obviously quite important. Obviously with we're not dealing with huge volumes of property, and those properties aren't getting huge volumes of interest as you would expect in the lower end of the market. So we can juggle it between the 2 of us. It's not a major problem. We found that we've actually been pulled towards the better results that we've had. So those 2 properties I mentioned at the start, actually that's the area where we are getting most traction.
The ones on the coast?
The ones on the coast.
Yeah.
So although we thought in our infinite wisdom that base ourselves in Sevenoaks, there's a really affluent market there that we can capitalise on. And again, we saw that a lot of those properties were being undermarketed. It's in an area that it's very drone worthy, big detached properties with lots of woodland and countryside around. But weirdly, we haven't got any traction there. We're in the Sevenoaks Chamber of Commerce. So we've got some good links and things, but we've only sold a handful of properties there. Most of our business tends to be down on the coast. And we spoke to somebody at the Sevenoaks Chamber of Commerce, and he said, "Don't swim against the tide. If that's where your market is, you serve that market. You capitalise on it." And I think because a lot of our stuff is drone heavy, the Kent coast is really picturesque, and you can do a lot with it. So yeah.
What's the drive time from Sevenoaks to the Kent coast?
About an hour. So, but the joy of today is that I can be listening to a podcast so I can get 2 podcasts in there and back. So whilst this is my first one that I'm on, I'm always listening to various different podcasts, and you can always be learning and working while you're on there.
Just pick up on that then, because my interactions have briefly been offline with you, so it suggests that you are a really willing learner. You're someone that takes self-development and potentially your career really seriously. So tell me a little bit about where you go to learn in the industry.
So these days it is the internet. So it's podcasts and probably YouTube realistically. Historically, my obsession for learning and self-development was obviously level 3 qualifications standard. Then I thought, well, let's go for the fellow of NAA and ALA. So I've done the level 4 qualifications to become fellow of both of those governing bodies. And then I thought, let's go for RICS as well. So that I had to jump through quite a few hoops on that, but that gets you your ASOC RICS at the end of your name. So that was a lot of...
You really have gone for it.
Yeah, I was just, I look at the CPD that we have to do anyway to belong to our governing bodies. I think, I can go to a 1-day course, or I can just do a qualification and get something at the end of it. So it just adds that credibility to you as an individual, really.
How would you say in the first, because it's not been that long, like I say, a couple of years going, how important has it been for you to do that learning and that investment in yourself as we've been through polar opposite markets?
I think it's definitely been huge in terms of the new market that we're now looking at. It's almost as if overnight the market's gone from a fairly depressed, looking as though it was all going to be cheap as chips, looking like we were going to be the same as the travel agents and that Purple Bricks and the other big brands were going to take over, and everyone was kind of on this race down to the bottom in terms of fees on that, to one where selling Sunset and selling £1 million mansions or whatever, all these different programs are raising our profile amongst the public, I feel. Because obviously when the public are looking at a US real estate company having a commission of $300,000 on a house sale, suddenly when you're then quoting a high fee but not an eye-watering amount, they think it's probably a bargain compared to what...
That is such an interesting take on that whole... That's really... Because I meant to ask you about this because you talked about it almost in the first few sentences of this podcast. So let's talk, because I can never remember the names and they all seem to blend into one. And I got to be honest, I don't really like that sort of stuff. But what's your take on what they're doing for our industry then? Because you're the first person that I've heard. It's a really interesting take that says it's raising the profile of art. So go on, talk to me about that perspective.
I think, one of the inspirations for me was seeing people with limited experience in our industry smashing it. And generally it was just because they had a great social media game and they had masses of self-belief and they weren't afraid to tell the world how fantastic they were. So there are, and I won't name names, but there are a number of people in the industry that I think have put themselves on the map, and in doing so put our industry on the map, and often on the back of reality TV shows. And for me, they are driving us forward towards an Australian and American model where we're suddenly more valued and personal agency is the norm as opposed to 30 high street agents where, it's just, So
that's so interesting. I really like that. I was talking to somebody else the other day and it's just interesting, had the same content and completely opposite point of view. They go, oh no, it's undermining and degrading what you said I'm doing as an estate agent there, because I've got all this experience, all this understanding, and someone's come in and never done this for a minute and they're blagging it, and that makes us all look like blaggers by the same token. And it's really interesting that you're saying, no, this is putting us on the map.
Definitely. Well, if you've got people shouting about charging 2.5% and they're coming from a background that isn't necessarily traditional estate agency and they've just smashed the market, then you go, well, you know, we're experienced, and you know the value of 22 years experience in this industry is huge, you know, or 30. How many? 30 years?
Nearly 30 years. Yeah, I know.
And it's not until you try and like pull.
There's no need to dig in.
I know. Even saying that makes me go, really? Oh my God.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. But so even bringing Paul on board, you don't realise what you know until you have to tell someone that's coming at it fresh, and it's the nuanced stuff a lot of the time, isn't it? So.
Can you? I mean, I would say the representation of what you need to do to earn a commission of 300,000 or 100,000 or 50,000 or 30, the real life that you're talking about of going in and operating in that premium market, it's tough. It's hard graft. It's hard work. And I think people see the nice houses, they see the glitz and the glamour, but actually there's another 12 hours a day on top of that you need to kind of add in if you're going to get something genuinely off the ground and into the minds of your ideal audience.
Definitely.
How do you see the representation in that respect? I see the representation of you can do anything when you put your mind to it and you put yourself out there. And I think I really admire those people for doing that. I don't think you should take them down for attacking it in a completely different format, in a different way, with a different mindset. And I think I applaud them for that. How they do it and who they bring along on that journey, I mean, that's their choice. But I know if you do pull back the layers, there's a lot of work that goes on to not just get a house listed and marketed effectively, it's keeping it on the market to attract the right buyer, to find the right buyer. And then once you've got the right buyer, negotiating the best price and doing all the hard work. And I've seen some of those programs where it looks like they couldn't negotiate themselves out of a wet paper bag. You know, at the end of the day, that's a real skill, right? It's that when house prices are being slashed, is how do you protect someone's equity? And actually that's a skill and a belief and a confidence. So I see the good and the bad sides of it. I take a very level view on it. But I love the fact that they've got this determination. They're going out there with inexperience into the market, showing you what determination and great attitude can actually produce and bring. And I think if you can saddle that, if you can bring that into the experienced agents with the skill sets, with the right beliefs and mindsets, and you can combine that together, you've got a really powerful proposition. And that's what it sounds like the direction you're looking to head down.
So I think if we did scale, then I think I would want people that come under us to have a decent level of experience, because it's all well and good going on camera and looking the part and presenting well, and there's obviously a place for that in our industry. But you do need, I mean, I recently had one where the solicitors were getting themselves in a state over the fact that this newly converted apartment didn't have any building regs approval. Well, it's only years of experience that then lead you to think, well, let's delve a bit deeper, let's do some detective work. And I found out actually it used to be known by a different name. So lots of Googling, lots of different websites later, basically found the building reg sign off, gave it to the solicitor. And the solicitor says to me often, he said, if I was going to most estate agents, I would just tell them that I'm raising this inquiry and, you know, what can we do about it? But he said, with you, I'll always speak to you first because I know that you'll try and get involved, get your hands dirty and try and cause a positive outcome. So for me, that's where we add value.
But take you back to that first sale where the water was falling off the roof into a bucket and you was up in the loft. I wonder, out of the agents that we're referring to, you know, on these lovely TV shows, which I watch because I'm a people fan. I love watching these things. How many would have kept a deal like that alive?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question.
But you don't know, right? But I think it's the sheer will and determination to make sure someone's needs are met by navigating through the problems and finding solutions, which will set you apart, especially in the current climate.
I almost think that, coming back to what you said, there are these phases in the market, say, like you had your purple bricks phase, and that sets a perception of what a fee could or should be.
Yep.
And then that's one thing. And then you have these TV shows that come along. over and above all of that, I really agree with something that you said at the start, that sentiment of some of the bigger names, so that's not who we're talking about anymore, but the bigger, well-established names in that premium marketplace aren't necessarily as undefeatable, if that's a word,
Yes.
as it might seem from the outset. And there are things that an independent agent can bring to that marketplace, some of the creativity, some of the end of the street stuff that you're going to at the moment with all of the videography, for example, which sets those properties apart.
Yeah.
And I think that's where really the gap in the market is to take it to that premium marketplace there.
Definitely. Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah.
So talk to me about your business then and where you are now, and you mentioned about scaling in the future. So at the moment in Rafferty Pickard, is it the two of you that are working at the minute?
Just the two of us. Yeah.
And what does the future look like in terms of, are you thinking of capping the amount of instructions you take on and having a waiting list, or are you going to take on more members of the team to grow the business and scale? What does it look like?
I think it depends how strained my marriage becomes, I suppose, as to how many. That's when I know I've reached the upper limit of instructions, when I really get told off for working late at night. But I think, in essence, I think, was it Simon Ledbetter on a recent podcast that said, look at the 15 different tasks that you do and then work out which ones you enjoy the most, and the ones that you don't, outsource. Get somebody in that can do it better and more efficiently and probably enjoys it more than you do. So I think from our point of view, that's probably what we'll do. So I think the first person that we would employ would be a digital and social media expert, somebody that can be the other side of the camera. At the moment, we actually do everything in-house. So if one of us is on camera presenting, the other one is behind the camera. So, and we edit all our own stuff. We take all our own photos. We've done courses on that. So we've kind of become obsessed with being good at everything, all bar becoming energy assessors. That'd be a bridge too far. But all from the marketing point of view, and the USP that we use for that is that nobody is going to know your home as well as we do, having appraised it, measured it, photographed it, videoed it, done the viewings.
Yeah.
Then we're negotiating the offer. Then we're handing over the keys to the buyer. So in terms of consistency and the fact that you're not ringing an office and getting an office junior on the phone that's never been to your property. You know, we know it intimately by the time we've finished with all of that lot. So, first person digital and social media, and then I think it would be self-employed area agents that we can look at expanding our area into, that can perhaps work under our umbrella. But I think we're not there yet, and we need to build our personal brand and business brand more to then hopefully get to that point where we're known, and then people will, again, the attraction agent thing, hopefully they'll be attracted. Certain people will appeal to us and like what we do. So
sounds good, doesn't it? Sounds promising.
So to ask you a question about the future, I know this is something which is under wraps. Don't worry, we can edit it out afterwards. But I'm interested because you were talking about London when I spoke to you on the phone a while ago.
Yep.
What's the London idea?
So I think I've been bolstered by the fact that my door knocks weren't met with abuse in Kent, and I'm thinking actually there's an untapped market there in London, and I'm forever hearing people saying, well, how do you attract London buyers in our county? Because it's that perception that all the money's pouring out of London, and if you've got £1 million plus property, it's generally going to be a London buyer.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
And we thought, well, what better thing to do than have our base in London, maybe deal with more buyers and sellers in London, so you've got that you're not having to even justify how you're going to bring London buyers, because you operate out of London and you do business in London. Therefore, you're going to bring those London buyers. So, it's not public, but it's no secret that somewhere, not your kind of Chelsea, Westminster, because it doesn't work so well with our area. And at the moment, we're having really good results on Kent Coast. Kent Coast is on the high-speed rail line, and that goes into London St Pancras. And there are offices around there that you can operate from, which would be really easy for us to get up to, first of all, because we live in that sort of area to get up there within about 45 minutes. But also a lot of the people that are perhaps looking to commute or move out of London are probably going to be coming on that train line, because if they live in that part of London.
Linking it all up.
Yeah, basically. That's
So how would that manifest itself to a vendor then? Is that you saying that would you position yourself as a London estate agency operating in Kent, or was it just the address, or I think we've always just been honest, and we would just say to them that we
we have our base of operations in London, and we have exposure there. You know, we're actively targeting buyers through social media in London, and our base helps us to do that. So people don't seem to have an issue with the fact that we don't have a single geographic base that we're glued to the seat of.
Yeah.
So I don't. Yeah, we'd be very honest with people about that. I don't think it'd be an issue. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I've got to ask you about the plane thing.
The plane. Yeah. Okay.
What's this plane thing?
I'm about to find out.
Okay. All right.
So we were instructed to sell a lovely barn conversion down in Headcorn in Kent, 13 acres of land. And in some ways, the owner was saying to me, look, the Achilles heel for this property is the fact that we're under the flight path of Headcorn Aerodrome. Now, by that very nature, you can't fly a drone there because there are exclusion zones around airfields.
Right.
So I spoke to the airfield. I used to do some flying lessons years ago, so I sort of knew a few people there, and we had a bit of a contact. And I just said, look, we're looking to sell this property. We know that we can't fly our drone, so would it be possible to go up in an aircraft and film the property from the air? And I said, look, we think it's sensible from everyone's point of view, because whoever buys the property they need to love aeroplanes, and you get lovely Spitfires and biplanes and things going over, but it could be good PR as much for the aerodrome as it is
it's a win-win
for us. So, and they actually said, yeah, funnily enough, the previous owners and owners in that vicinity had complained quite frequently about the airfield. So we'd much rather have somebody that appreciates and values what we've got here.
Nice.
So they took me up in an old 1940s Piper Cub, I think it was, where everything was vibrating as we were kind of going up. And I'm there with my camera and microphone, just doing a bit of a piece to camera as we're flying over the property. So
I haven't seen that. I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, I'll send it.
Good work.
Yeah.
Has it resulted in anything?
We've sold it, yes, completed. Funny enough, it wasn't somebody that is in aviation, but we went onto Facebook, joined a pilot's Facebook group and posted the video on there. So just because we thought, well, let's target those buyers specifically that might be interested in it. So it worked out well.
Nice
On that particular point, just diving into that tactically, do you do that a lot? Do you go into local or specialist Facebook groups like that and target people? What do you post in there that doesn't tread on toes too much?
Yeah, not so much. That was the only one where we've specifically targeted a group. Normally we do kind of Facebook campaigns where you can do area catchments and things. So, we'll do a radius around London or a radius around the property. Obviously on other platforms, you can target a bit more in depth in terms of age, interests. So there are some properties, if they're equestrian interest, then you'll put, equestrian interest in the box to capture those people that are looking at those properties. But no, that's the only one where we've specifically targeted a Facebook group. We advertise in one of the horsey magazines. I don't know if it's Horse and Hound, or so. If we've got a property that's got stables and barns, then we'll put it in there. So yeah.
And last question from the estate agency point of view is that you're swimming with the tide with the properties on the coast.
That's very good.
But they're an hour away from you. How does that work in terms of those vendors being comfortable with you being an hour away? And how do you manage the appointments? And then I'm assuming you must charge accordingly for that service because you're giving them a Rolls-Royce service for that, and being so far away, you are clearly in demand. How do you manage that part of it?
So in terms of vendor expectations, I think when we are very lucky that we can say in this area, we sold a property for just under $1 million more than any other property had sold for in this town. So that's really powerful. So straight away, they know that you can deliver results in their area. From wherever you are, could be on Mars, you've still delivered that result. That's still a fixed point in time. And in terms of just time management, it's just literally just managing the diary. I think if there were just one of us, so September last year, I actually broke my leg in 3 places, and I was sofa bound for 3 months. And a lot then fell on Paul. Now, it was actually lucky at that point that Liz Truss messed up our market for a while, because I think if we'd been operating in a normal pace and tempo, he would have struggled to cope with it. But as it stands, that period was probably the worst sort of pause that we've had in the market, and it just so happened that I couldn't go out and do appointments at that point. So So we were lucky from
that rough landing on the Piper Cub, was it?
skate park with my 3-year-old at the time, actually. So
Oh,
it was one of those moments where this is how you do it, son. Down the half pipe, and then, crunch, crunch, crunch.
He'll never let you live that down.
No.
Unfortunately. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
You may or may not know from the other podcasts that we've done, we do have a bit of a closing tradition, which is that everyone, whether they know it or not, has a porn star name. And you, as our property porn star for the day, have a porn star name. And to uncover it, we take your middle name and your pet's first name, I say confidently,
Okay.
and that creates porn star name. None of them has been better than Matt's so far, but we'll give it a go here. What's yours add up to?
So I don't technically have a middle name, but you could say Paul is my middle name because it's hyphenated.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't have another name as well. And then my first pet was called Monty. So I don't know. Paul Monty.
It's almost full Monty, isn't it?
It's almost full Monty.
Full Monty.
So, yeah.
I like that.
It's not too bad.
It's the
I think
second or
we're gonna
third
have to
place.
tell people to make some up, if they're going to get close to mine.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Kevin Tiny's never going to get beaten, is it?
Nothing's come close to that so
That's
far.
right. But
And yours is?
Edward Wonton. I have to think about that for a minute.
Wonton.
Yeah, I had a dog called Wonton.
Right.
Yeah. It's
Interesting.
weird.
Yeah.
No, Kevin Tiny.
No, yeah.
I just want to say thank you for joining us today.
No
It's
problem.
great to hear someone really at the earliest stages of doing this, and also coming away from a core brand, and the difficulties that has obviously been challenging, I can imagine, but empowering somebody else to run that for you and stepping away. It's interesting to see what you're doing at the minute. So well done.
It's been a
Congratulations.
pleasure. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear. And especially the approach that you're taking. You're not on the high street. It is mainly digitally focused. There's a lot on social media, videography heavy. That seems to be the theme of today and how to win in that marketplace. And against established competitors, against geography,
Yep.
it seems to be going really well. So congratulations to you. It's really
Thanks.
exciting. And you'd never known this was your first podcast. I think you smashed it.
Yeah, you've done really well.
Thank you very
Top
much.
stuff.
So thank
Lovely.
you.
Cheers.
And thank you so much for listening to this episode of Property Porn Stars. We hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to like, download, comment, follow, subscribe. The list is almost endless. But we've got a jam-packed agenda of guests coming up for you between now and the end of the year and onwards as well. So make sure you hit the subscribe bell icon so that you don't miss any of those. And we'll see you in the next one.
See you soon.